What does the Book of Republic say? In this recording, I will talk about the background of Plato's book The Republic and summarize the book consisting of 10 chapters. I wish you enjoyable listening. Is a general summary of the chapters. The Republic begins with a conversation about what righteousness is. It then discusses evil and goodness in chapter 1. In the second chapter, after a conversation about how the first societies were formed and how they expanded, the thread of war comes up. In chapters 3 and 4, the need to train soldiers for war threats and the details of these are discussed. In chapter 5, the status of men and women in the ideal society and issues related to the family are addressed. The ideal of a kind of commune society where children and property belong to everyone is drawn. In chapter 6, Plato depicts the ideal man as a philosopher and discusses the characteristics of this ideal man. In chapter 7, he states that soldiers and the state officials should also develop their mental skills through education. He presents the example of the enlightened person and the unenlightened person with the example of the cave thought. In chapter 8, he mentions the forms of government such as kingdom, democracy, oligarchy, democracy, and tyranny and explains their characteristics and their transformations to each other. In chapter 9, he explains the transition from democracy to tyranny, and finally in chapter 10, he states that the righteous person will be rewarded well in this world and after death. Before summarizing the chapters, I would like to talk a little about the background of the Republic. The author of this book is Plato, but Plato's name is never mentioned in the book. The protagonist is Socrates, Plato's teacher Socrates, with whom Plato had constant conversations in his yacht and was influenced by him, and who was later sentenced to death. The book consists of dialogues between Socrates and the people around him on philosophy and the state. We don't know whether Socrates said these things in his real life, or whether Plato wrote what he wanted to say through the character of Socrates, or which parts belong to the real Socrates and which parts were added by Plato. For this reason, there are those who see the work as the work of Plato alone, but there are also those who see it as a joint work of Socrates and Plato. The Republic is divided into 10 books in the manuscripts we have. The division into 10 chapters is a distinction made after Plato. It is said that the astrologer and philosopher Thrasyllus, who lived during the reign of Emperor Tiberius, compartmentalized it. The dialogues begin in the house of Polemarchus. This is thought to be for a representative reason. Like Plato's teacher Socrates, who was executed, Polemarchus was one of the people killed by democracy at the time. It is said that oligarchs had him killed to seize his fortune. The book criticizes democracy, and Plato supports a kind of aristocracy ruled by philosophers. These criticisms are, of course, related to the understanding of democracy experienced in Athens, where the majority of the people couldn't participate in governance except for the rulers formed by high-ranking people. The rulers were elected from the people in the alphabetical order, regardless of their qualifications, and in this way they claimed that they were experiencing democracy. In the Republic, there are 3 groups of people who interact with each other. The first group is composed of Socrates and his 2 disciples, Glaucon and Adiamentos. The second group is made up of the old man Cephalos and his son Polemarchus. The third group is made up of the sophist Thrasymachus and his students who follow him. Glaucon and Adiamentos are Ariston's sons and Plato's brothers. Immediately after the beginning of Book 2, they become the main protagonists of the conversation, constantly demanding that Socrates consider the matter more truly and not allowing him to take evasive paths. They argue with a great determination against Socrates' views in order to expose the essence of truth once and for all. It is not known for certain when the Republic was written. However, it is estimated that it may have been finished in about 372 and may have taken 10 years to write. This would explain the intersection of the topics of discussion with those in other books. Professor George Rochte says the following about this book. Plato's Republic is one of the sources of the values we today call humanity. In the East and West, before Christianity and Islam, the Republic was the most important, if not the most sacred book. The first Christian and Muslim intellectuals based their religious philosophy on various interpretations of this book.